Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Gaelic Lives. It's our Thursday edition. On Monday, we chatted about the newcomers of Madden and Loch McCrory and all the buzz that goes with that. And joined here by columnist Gerard O'Kane. Gerard, you've been involved in Cavan football, obviously been involved in Derry football your whole life. And I suppose, first of all, we touched on it earlier when I was talking to you, just that whole first time feeling of winning a county title, or the first time in a considerable length of time. I just experienced it with the Loch McCrory people celebrating around you. It's magical. Like, there's no other way of saying it. It's magical.
Yeah, whether it's a club's first time, as in first time ever, or first time generationally, in terms of people who are alive to see it. So some club might have won one in the 20s or 30s and not won one since.
Like Clonaldo 7, for example, must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, no, we had won it in '85, so people had seen it 20 years before.
Yes.
But we had won it before 1928, and had we not had that '85 one, there'd be no one alive between the two of them.
Yes.
So, but still for us, it was just the be all and end all. It's where we strive to get to. But as I said to you, like, if you look at Glen Mahara 4 or 5 years ago, they won the first one ever. So no one had ever seen that one before. And I was chatting to a Cullyhanna fella yesterday, just before, early in the morning, and just wished him luck. And I said, look, whatever way it falls today in Armagh, some club is going to see the first one ever. And that first one is magical. Like, I'm sure in 2004, you've seen it with Slaughtneil.
Mm-hmm.
It's something completely different now. If you end up winning 2, 3, 4, or 5, it doesn't take away from the achievement. Your fourth or fifth one down the line, it probably gets harder to keep doing it. But to win your first one and a generation of people, like, there'll be somebody there 80 years of age from Madden and Loch McCrory yesterday who waited 80 years for that. And there's somebody there at 20 who thinks, God, what's all the fuss about, maybe? But they don't understand. And it's not until you get later on in life what it means. So, like, as you get a bit older, you sort of see that, you would like to see it shared around more. Like, I think now that I've seen it around clubs, I would like every club to experience what we've experienced over the years, because I think I know good GA people from other clubs who've never got that experience.
Mm-hmm. And from your own point of view, before we sort of dig into the Ulster Club as a competition, like yourselves in Newbridge have won the title in the 100th year of your club's history. Like, it's maybe something you have talked about since the cup came home, but it's pretty amazing. I would imagine you're organising functions and you have a book coming out and everything that goes with that. But for your senior team to be champions in the year you're celebrating, it has to be brilliant. Like Michael touched on it after the game, the importance of it.
Yeah, look, we're celebrating 100 years, so I don't know. I know Newbridge have a gala dinner coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
We have a gala dinner now in the next few weeks. We have a big pavilion, they call them now. It's not a marquee anymore. A pavilion's a posher word for it. Built up in our car park, and we're doing it all at home just because we have the facilities to do it. So it's nice. It's a nice touch, I think. But someone said before a ball was thrown in the championship locally, because the two are in different competitions, would it not be nice to see them two clubs won the championship this year? Don't know what the odds were on it. We were probably heavy enough odds to win the intermediate, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I think Newbridge was sitting around 71 or something to win Derry, but you could probably still get a nice wee return if you'd have put the two clubs together. But like, I can remember, I'm talking 7-8 years ago, back around 2017-18, we probably weren't in a great space football-wise compared to where we were now, just in terms of competing whatever level we were at. People were genuinely looking forward to 2025, saying, look, we have good underage teams. If we can get this thing kicked on, we could be competing for a championship in 2025. Now, that was sort of barstool talk, and I would imagine they meant senior championship, because we were competing in A levels and underage the whole way through. Look, we were intermediate, not by want of choice. It's just the way the cards fell for us. So you have to compete where you're at. So the fact that we have won the championship that year does make it a bit extra special, I think.
And obviously, you have a big family connection getting ready for the weekend. But from the senior competition point of view, only 3 of the champions are back in the Ulster Club as it gets underway this weekend. And I know Naomh Connell would have been regularly in it, although they didn't win Donegal last year. So for only 3 of the 9 to be back, it leaves it really novel. Albeit Kilcoo are back for the seventh time in a row, so they're pretty experienced at it all.
Yeah, like they always say, usually your first time in Ulster clubs, nearly testing the water, and you very rarely won one your first time on it. Like, correct me, did Glen Mahara won one first year they went on it, or did it take their second one?
Took their second year because
Yeah.
Kilcoo beat them after extra time.
Yeah, so like I can't remember who had been the last team who won it in their first year, huh?
Slanville won it in 14, but there was still a handful of the boys who'd played there in 04. There was a 10-year gap, but for some of them it was their first time. So I suppose every club is that wee bit different.
Yeah. So like, but it's a competition wherever you dip your toes in, you know, it's just there's something novel about it. I'm sure Connacht, Leinster, and Munster are saying the same with their provincial championship too. So, but I think Ulster's probably a bit more competitive. But you know, you'll find that Loch McCrory will give probably Kilcoo their fill of it now in 2 weeks. They'll not be fazed by 7-time down champions coming, and Kilcoo are always thereabouts in the reckoning. I think probably the one club who's maybe eyeing it up from the outside eyeing up that here is probably Scottstown. Scottstown have been closer than anyone over the last couple of years without actually winning it.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, they're probably going to say we have to make the breakthrough. You know, the fair bit of experience, and given the year that's in it, there's a lack of experience all around the competition. So they should be maybe looking and saying, look, there's maybe an opening for us here. You know, if we manage our way through it, but like nothing's guaranteed on it either. So, you know, whoever they're facing up against, it'll be a tight game, nip and tuck. It's winter football, but I would say they're the one club that's looking at it that hasn't won it. And you know, we talk about a full generation. It's what I think they won it in the 80s under Jerry McCarville's team.
Yeah, and they took crossing down to extra time, and then they lost the final to Glen. They were just close, as you say, Gerard, close without actually stepping over that line. That magical line we talk about, they didn't get over it.
I think they won 3 in the late 70s and late 80s between their team. That they won 79, maybe 80 and 88 again or something. And that probably hangs over the current generation who have won 10 in the last 12 or something. They never go to the line. So knowing a few of them, I would imagine that they'll say, look, there's a real opportunity this year.
The first time team going into it, is there 2 sides to it? There's people talk about, you know, it's a time to test the water, but say look at it from Loch McCrory's point of view, like last 25 years, he thinks there's been 10 or 11 different winners in Tyrone. You know, the law of averages would mean Loch McCrory might not be back out of Tyrone for another couple of years, or they might retain it. But is it the case of there's actually a bit of pressure when you get out for the first time, depending on the situation, or is it just all the magical next game is the only thing that matters in it, Gerard? Is there something in it, the fact that you have to strike when you're out?
Yeah, well, there's no guarantee you're going to get back there. You know, like we had one crack at it in 2007. If you'd asked me at that time, you'd have probably thought, right, we might hopefully win another. We probably would win another one in the next 5 years. We'll win another dairy. We didn't. So I only got one crack at it myself at 22, probably thinking by the time I was 30, I was 2 or 3 at it. Loch McCrory could see him. They have young boys at 22. I think the team littered with a lot of boys that age.
Yeah.
But they might not get another crack at it. You know, change rooms change as well. Like that 34, 35 Loch McCrory had in there yesterday. That's their 2025 squad. I can guarantee you their 26 squad won't be the same. You'll never get that same bunch in again, no matter as much as they want to. There'll be retirements, injuries, travel, family commitments. So for that bunch themselves, that's their one crack at it. If they come back again next year or the year after, it'll be a different Loch McCrory team, albeit marginally probably a lot of them to see him. But I'm sure that, you know, Madden's thinking the same as well. But again, both of them managed by very experienced management teams, which I think will help. Loch McCrory have essentially a county management team there, and Madden have Mark Hart with them, who has been round the mill, has been around enough teams, fair bit of success. So they'll be guided that way as well for 2 first timers.
And you touched on Scottstown there, like, I know there's traditionally, Gerard, a lot of these Ulster games, you've been at them, you've played on them, you know the story. A lot of them are very fine margin games because you're essentially it's the best teams in all the counties. But is it like that Scottstown Neve Connell one jumping out of the calendar at you, or is it just me, the fact that, you know, Scottstown, you talk about a team that would maybe feel that they have to deliver, and then you have Neve Connell who have sort of been, I know St. Eunan's have been out recently, but Neve Connell have been the dominant team, and we're very, very close to son of Kieran Thompson now. But is that as possibly the tie of the weekend whenever it kicks off?
Yeah,
Or,
like,
or are they all pretty much the same for you?
they'll probably be the same. They're probably the same in terms of what's going to be between the teams. Like I would say, you have a margin of, do the bookies work on 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 79 points? Most of them are 1 to 3 points either way, because you're talking the best of the best. But I think Scottstown, Neve Connell might be more of a war of attrition. Two sort of, even though it's Neve Connell's first time this year, they didn't want it last year. That team, a lot of them, this will be their 5th journey in it, I think, in 10 years maybe or something. So they're both battle hardened that way. And Neve Connell have been very unlucky over the last couple of years not to get that distance or to get to an Ulster final, at least a 1-1. So I think they'll be thinking the same as Scottstown, but one of them's going to fall now at the first hurdle. And I think that one will be more like a war of attrition, as opposed to, I think Loch McCrory might come out and see it, not like to be blasé about it, maybe a free hit. We'll go at Kilcoo here. We will, because I think Loch McCrory's games based around, they're not like overly physical in terms of grinding teams down. They're more a fast-paced football inside, whereas I think Scottstown and Neve Connell might try and mix it with each other a bit, or be a bit cagey.
And obviously, with Gaelic Life, we'll be looking at all the games across all the codes and all the grades, because that's sort of, it feeds into our All-Star campaign. But now we're sort of just dipping into the competitions as a whole. But this weekend coming, you have, obviously yourselves are playing Moneyglass in the intermediate, and you have Newbridge and Dunloy. So what's the sort of, what are you looking for this weekend? A bit of a novel pairing, I suppose.
Yeah, well, people sort of ask, like, Derry and Antrim are sort of neighbouring counties, they border each other. I suppose for us in Glenallen, it's the first year I'm not involved anywhere in the squad, but you sort of hear enough around. Like the Moneyglass team, I wouldn't know any of them personally, but I gather a fair few of them either went to St. Pat's Mahara or St. Mary's Marafelt. So a lot of our players will know. Granted, a lot of the boys are 15 years my junior or more, so it's a generational thing. So I don't think it's a case of either team getting in the dark. Like, I think there's a fair few boys in the team have played with other boys from Moneyglass, 2 teams in St. Pat's. Because Moneyglass aren't a million miles away from Glenallen in terms of geography. It's only 20 odd mile across the band, So, and I think I was saying to you before you come on, our midfielder Neil McNichol has a couple of cousins playing for Moneyglass. Diarmuid McNichol, our wing back, Dermot's son, his mother's from Toom. She has relations playing for Moneyglass as well. So the boys on the pitch will know each other as much as a novel pair. And it's not completely out of the blue like we're playing a team from the complete unknown that you would never have heard of. So,
because sometimes that's a leveler where it is unknown. That whole thing about it's a new pitch, it's a new ref, it's a new team. This is not like that.
No, there'll be a small bit of familiarity there, given boys. I know boys in our team definitely were in the same year as some of the Moneyglass players and play schools football with them. So it'll not be unknown to now. The older boys in Glenallen probably don't know any of the Moneyglass players, but I think I gather a fair few of them were schooled in Derry now over the last 10 years. So, and you can probably see that in the St. Mary's Marafelt, St. Pat's Mahara programs. So, but for us to take Ulster Club to Owen Beg, we've never done that. We've played before in Celtic Park a couple of times. So, but Owen Beg somewhere we're probably just as comfortable in as we play most of our Derry games in. So we'll be happy enough that way. I think it was changed due to Halloween being in Derry at the weekend, due to the festivities in Derry being ram-packed as it is.
Yeah.
And again, from the Dunloy Newbridge thing, I think it's quite a novel pairing. But from what I hear, there's a fair good relationship between the clubs. without actually having a direct relationship due to Crea Concrete being based basically in Newbridge.
Yeah.
And Crea is a big, obviously, Dunloy backer. They sponsored Dunloy for years. They're a massive Dunloy employer. And the Gaelic are a very good employer locally in Newbridge as well, someone was telling me. So I think a lot of it centres around the Elk, Crea Concrete, owned by the McCags. So I think there's a good relationship between the clubs without actually having a relationship on the pitch, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And like Newbridge last year went in, and I was at that game against Clonairon, and like Clonairon were very close to Errigal, who obviously went the whole way to Croke Park. So, and it was actually like Paddy McGrogan had made the comment somewhere along the line. I think it may have been Sean Brady in a podcast or in a conversation with Weekend where he just talked about physicality. Newbridge felt that last year was a wee bit of a wake-up calls too strong, but he probably realised that it's a step up and that they felt they worked on that over the winter and come back different. But Paddy himself is obviously back. He wasn't there last year. So they have a bit of freshness about them themselves, Newbridge, as much as they are back again, but they have a few extras.
Yeah, well, Newbridge last year and at minus Paddy, physically he's a big player at Ulster level. And if he says that they maybe got caught out maybe a bit physically, was maybe 10 of that Newbridge team last year under 21 or 11, under 22. They're now a year older. They have a full year sort of development. And I've seen them get a bit stronger and, sort of bigger and stronger. So they'll probably look at the game last year and say, right, that's for teams at the elite level of Ulster we have to get there, and they've probably done that. So I'd imagine that's something that they looked ahead to. Plus, given last year was Newbridge's first victory since 1989, that's what I talk about, a generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Newbridge would have had maybe 3 generations or 4 full generations of football teams pass through at that time, never won it. So they probably done a Monday club and a Tuesday club. Maybe, I don't know, maybe even a Wednesday. But I know this year they just done their Sunday and a Monday, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can even see from that wee bit of focus that they're like, right, we've had a bit of fun, knock it in the head Monday night, we're back in the pitch on Tuesday. Now there's a shorter turnaround time because we're preliminary this year as well, but they probably have that wee bit more extra focus.
And then Dunloy had the experience of playing it in hurling. I know it's a different sport, but it's the same group of players. Like the Lockmore, Castlelany, and I suppose Slackneil as well, and Cratloe, where it's the same group of players that are playing in big games. That has to help them too, Jared. You'd imagine in terms of how to deal with it.
If I'm right in thinking, did Dunloy play Slackneil in a hurling game in Owenbeg?
Yeah, 20. It was something like 6,000. I think it was the biggest crowd ever
in the last number of years. So for them to jump on a bus in Dunloy, come across the Ban into Kilray, probably across into Garva, then up into Owenbeg, it'll be not out of the blue for them to do that. So even small things like that will probably help them. Now Dunloy, where they've been in Armagh a fair few times and the Ulster Club playing hurling. So jumping on a bus for them isn't a novel thing now. So then these small bits of experience will help I think the 15 boys across both codes, or 16, do they?
Mm-hmm. It's pretty high. I remember chatting to Kevin McQuillan, and he said he had stopped playing hurling a few years, but the majority of them are all still playing both. And another thing I did notice, it was 2007. Dunloy beat Newbridge in an Ulster semi-final and intermediate. I think Kevin McCall might be the only player between the two teams who's still playing. So that was I didn't realise that. I forgot that fixture was when it was. I didn't realise it was a semi-final, and Dunloy have turned them over. So that's it's got absolutely no relevance to the game, but it's a wee bit of history in there.
Yeah, look, you're always looking for especially as a journalist, you're looking for any connection between the teams, any nugget. The fact that 2 of them played in an Ulster intermediate semi-final 18 years ago, I'm sure if you asked the 2 of them, do you think you'll play in a first or a preliminary round of the Ulster Senior in 18 years' time, the chances would be very, very slim. You might say we're not playing hurling anytime, but obviously the lawyer plugged away and they've come up through the ranks in the football. I know they won a couple of minors and 18 and 19 maybe or something like that. So
16 and 18, and that's the basis of that's the crux of their team.
So if you can keep them boys together, probably within the club, it's not a massive surprise that they've done this. But the fact that the two clubs are playing each other, there's that creative connection and all that sort of adds a nice wee element to it.
And finally, what do you feel there is a favourite for the Ulster senior? Not asking you too much about intermediate because you're inside the bubble yourself and you know the story. But senior ways, is it open, or is there a clear favourite, or is it simply the fact that you cannot judge it because every day is different and you know there hasn't been a ball kicked, or is there anything you can read into it so far?
I would imagine, like, if you're asking most people, is Kilcoo on the same side of the draw as Scottstown? I can't think off the top of my head. No, they're on different sides. If I'm going with intermediate, I think they're on different sides.
They're on different sides, yeah.
You know, so if you're looking at that from the outset, you have a team who have won, is it 14 at the last 15 and down, and a team who have won 10 at the last 12 in Monaghan. You'd have to say that going on previous form, that the two of them might end up in the final, but like, I wouldn't rule Newbridge out. You know, it's hard for me to say that some of the first 10 teams at Loch McCrory or Madden's going to get to a final, because it's hard to sort of grasp that. You know, in terms of favourites, you're probably looking at someone who's been there before, who's that experience. You know, I haven't seen Kilcoo play any of their games in Down this year, but you know, they weren't overly convincing in their quarter and semi, but then they come into the final against a strong carried offside and completely blew them away. So are Kilcoo only sort of peaking for this time of year, just getting it right as usual? Scottstown, I know they in a scheme ran them to a replay, but they still got enough to go over the line. Like, Scottstown went far away 3 and 4 years ago, and they've added Jack McCarron to that since. So probably
there's a young guy, Tommy Mallon, and Max Maguire played in the Derry minor team that the Monaghan minor team that played against Derry. You know, so those boys are now 20-ish.
I seen that boy Mallon scoring a 2-pointer yesterday.
You know, if you look like what Ryan McElhone brought to your team in Dunloy, same sort of age profile, so that's another factor for Scots. I know those boys are coming in.
Yeah, so if you're asking who's the favourites, probably looking at them too. But like, I think
predictions is a mugs game, especially before balls played.
I think Newbridge won't be far away, given the fact. No, that's, you know, might sound disrespectful to Dunloy, but if you're asking me who's going to win that game at the weekend, I've just seen enough of Newbridge over the last two. Like, I was at their game against Lantneil, very impressed by them. I was very impressed, you know, seeing them up live, close first. Like, I haven't seen Dunloy play a full football match, so I'm sort of guessing in the dark here. You know, so I would have to say that Newbridge, from what I've seen, are very impressive, and they'll take a fair bit of stopping too.
And finally, before we let you go, you're obviously involved in Cavan. I saw Munter Connacht had a convincing win in junior at the weekend over Ardglass from Down. Cahull, somebody had said to me they were a fancy team at intermediate level, and then Kingscourt have obviously, I think it was Pat Faulkner says to me in an interview, he says we're sort of dark horses, but they ended up winning it. So what do you feel Cavan could bring to the Ulster party?
Well, like, I didn't know nothing about Ardglass, but Munster Connacht physically are a decent side. I seen them play one day for junior football, and they play in junior league in Cavan as well. So I know some counties decouple their league and championship, and there's some argument about teams playing in one league and playing a different championship. There's a given upper hand. Munster Connacht, in fairness to them, have been junior throughout, and they put up a massive score yesterday. Now, I know Ardglass only won their championship last Friday, so I don't know what way that turned out for them over the weekend. And then
that's very difficult. Hey,
you know, you have a short recovery time, and you know, does that hamper you? But Cuchulain's are a fairly strong intermediate side now. I think Cuchulain's play Irvinstown, and someone told me Irvinstown would be a top 4 or 5 team from Fermanagh across the board in terms of even the senior teams and it. So I know Cuchulain's finished 4th in the Cavan Senior League. So it should be a fairly tight game between them. Cuchulain's are a team littered with guys who are capable of playing county football, which you often don't get at intermediate level. And then Kingscourt, like,
they play Aaron Yields.
suppose whenever you say dark horses, your dark horses just because no one outside of Gown or Crosserlock or Rammer had won any of the last 5 leagues or 5 championships or 6 leagues. So the last 11 competitions in Cavan were shared between 3 teams. Kingscourt broke that sort of stranglehold, and they probably also have maybe the best inside forward left in the competition. Jordan Morris. He was in really good form in the Cavan semi-final and final. So if you have somebody like him, you have a real ace up your sleeve as well. Aaron Yields have a bit less time to prepare. They get a bit of a lesson last year, if I remember, from Scottstown, did they? So
they did, yeah. Down in Brewster Park as well.
Yeah, so they'll have that under their belt, and they'll learn from that, and they'll probably try and make the game more attritional. But Jordan Morris is someone who can maybe be the difference between 2 sides there. How far Kingscourt will go, I wouldn't know again, because it's their first journey into it since 2014. So it's hard to say, but it's hard to look past, see Scottstown, Cuckoo, maybe even Newbridge, I think, are in around that conversation.
It'll all be revealed, Gerard. There's it's a dangerous thing talking about a competition before a ball's been kicked, but I think the nature of it is we both agree, and I suppose most people in Ulster agree, it's a really special time of the year, a special competition. Gerard, thanks a million for jumping on, and we will be taking a look ahead into Dunloy and Newbridge's camp over the next part of the podcast.
Dead on. If you're training this time of year, you're either training for an Ulster competition or a relegation battle that has been strung out because one of the people in it has been involved in championship. So it's probably a good time of year to be training for the most part. It's not that appealing. The clocks have changed, but it definitely makes the winter shorter for the people involved in your club if your club's still active. If
you're driving down the Bray from Slantneil and you see the lights on and going on, it's still championship time. So that's same in every community.
Glenolm, because we had lights long before other teams and with fairly good lights, Glenolm went through a phase of other teams just to come and train Glenolm for Ulster Club because
that's right. These are the lights. Yeah.
Long before anyone else. So I can remember Lockheed hurling team training up in our place. I remember Dungiven 97 team training. There's 2 of the other teams we actually give their pitch out to because we weren't using it. So maybe it was a kick up the ass we needed to see other teams training on it.
And now you're preparing yourselves. Thanks a million, Gerard, for your time, and we'll chat soon.
No problem.
In part 2 of our podcast, we look ahead to Saturday evening's Ulster Club clash of Dunloy and Newbridge. I caught up with Dunloy's Deaglan Smyth, but first of all, we hear the thoughts of Ryan McElhone from the Newbridge management team.
Newbridge are back-to-back champions. What has the last couple of days, weeks been like? Because I was down in the hall and the cup came in and it was magical. So has it sunk in?
Well, not really. I suppose you've got, for so long it wasn't even on anybody's radar, and then all of a sudden we've won back-to-back championships. It's unbelievable. It's totally surreal. The community, the celebrations, the fact that it's had on the players and everybody about the place has been amazing. So long may it continue.
What made the difference over this past few years, do you feel?
Well,
probably a lot of things, but is there anything that stands out for you?
Well, obviously the managers, has had a massive part in it. Gary and Kevin have come in. They're extremely level-headed, extremely professional, and they've obviously brought that to the team. Obviously we had the nucleus of a very strong team. We'd been to a couple of semi-finals. Albeit the results weren't good. We felt we had a team that could compete at that level, and they've obviously took us to that level, and so they deserve a lot of credit. Then obviously the players, Danny Doherty's come in and done strength and conditioning as well as part of that management team. Everybody's bought into it, and thankfully we've got the rewards.
And from the players' side of things, you seem to be always producing that magical 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the number happens to be of the good standard that's coming off, and that's been happening over 5 or 6 years or maybe longer, but it's gradually built the team that's there.
Obviously there's the whole family and brothers side of things, so you've got that siblings pushing each other on, which is a massive thing. The age profile then of those guys coming through every couple of years, and as you said yourself, the quality that they're bringing, adding that in each year, and then obviously the standards that are being set by the older players in the team, especially the two experienced county players, CD and Potty. They set the standards big time. Conor McGrogan as well, who's been playing for a long time, also sets very high standards, and when you come into that group you have to live to those standards. And then obviously the young boys having experience at county level and schools level bring their own enthusiasm and standards as well, so the whole thing mixed together has had a real positive result, obviously.
And the 3 big knockout games you've played in have been obviously crucial, but 3 games you won that you could have lost but you didn't. Says an awful lot about what's inside the tank. Yeah,
that's it. And I suppose going into the final, that's probably something that we felt we had over Morafelt, was that we had been in those 2 really tight games that had gone right to the final whistle, and could have went either way. Steelstown had the ball in possession and they would have needed a 2-pointer, and then obviously Sloughnale, is well documented what happened in the finish of that game, so it was right to the wire. So we knew if it came to that in Morafelt, and that gives players confidence. When you've been in those games and those situations, if they arise again, it's not new to you. And we felt that going into the final and having those, as you said, those 3 games and getting over the line in all those 3 games probably made it 10 times better than it was last year.
Looking into Ulster, a lot of people don't realise how close you were to actually beating Clonairon last year, maybe down to the last couple of plays. Is it a game you have talked about much, or parked away somewhere?
No.
Because you were really close.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been talked about, and I think that maybe there's a bit of commentary around that time that maybe it didn't mean as much to us as people thought, but the players and the management were gutted after the Clonairon match. It was a game that we felt we definitely could have won, and it just got away from us in the end, unfortunately. So yeah, it definitely was a sore point for a while, but obviously when you've won your first championship for 35 years, that then helps with that pain. But
because there's people, a lot of chatter this past couple of weeks is Newbridge will have a better crack at Ulster this year, because I think a lot of people don't realise how close that game actually was. And maybe it's nothing you care about, but it seems to be that maybe people think that they will take it more seriously this year, which I sort of disagree with, because you were so close.
Yeah, the mindset is no different than it was last year. It's, you're going into a new competition. You have the first round in front of you. You have a tough game, like a really tough game against Dunloy coming up, and that's all that anybody's thinking about. Same as last year, it was Clonairon. It was each game at a time, thinking about Clonairon, trying to get over them, and unfortunately we didn't. And then it'll be the same this year, taking the first game, Dunloy, just doing everything we can to try and get over them. That's all we'll be thinking about.
Have you said much of a look at them?
Yeah, well, obviously, but some high-profile games. Obviously, the final was on TG4, and obviously they're playing our neighbours Carrigan as well. So you always have an interest when Carrigan's playing. But a very well drilled team, very well organised team. They beat St Bridget's, they beat Portlandone, they beat Carrigan in the final. Like, them's 3 top teams that they've taken out. 3 of the best teams in Antrim. So their championship run's been incredible, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. Obviously, they've an experienced management. They've Murdo O'Brien's in now coaching them, who's experienced at inter-county level. They're very well drilled, very well set up.
Decky, what has the last few weeks been like? I'm sure amazing and buzzing and all them words were floating around your head.
Aye, absolutely. I'd probably go down as one of the best weeks that I've had in the village, 100%, especially in a Dunloy shirt. No, I couldn't have thought of anything like that there. Growing up, even winning Gaelic, probably wasn't even in my head, to be honest, but to have done it is definitely a good feeling.
What is it about the group? Because there's a lot of you play both sports, and it's a fanatical club and all those things, but the group yourselves,
I think we just happen to have a talented group growing up, and we've managed to keep everybody together, and winning obviously underage to winning titles at senior and hurling, it's starting to kind of pay off in both codes now.
Mm-hmm. It took you a while to win the intermediate after underage, and then to go up into senior. To go to the final and lose it's obviously a regret, but how much did you tap into it since?
I don't think that we tapped into it too much, to be honest. We kind of, at the start, we knew that we got there for a reason, and at the start even of last year we were a bit, but this is the same goal, so it was to get back there and to right a wrong, and thankfully we got to do it there this year. I don't think we were prepared for that game as well as what we were prepared this year.
The final 2 years ago?
The final 2 years ago, so I don't think we were anywhere near prepared as what we were there for this year. And
is that the learning? Is that the learning you took there? Maybe
you learn from games like that there, especially playing the likes of Corrigan, who are obviously a top side and who know how to win. So we kind of had to go back to the drawing board and look to see what we did wrong and what we could have done, what we could have done better, and then obviously just take it from there. But no, we definitely got it right this year.
Because you got off to a really good start in the final.
We got off to a really good start, and actually the last 3 matches, Sir Bridget's, Portenown and Corrigan, sorry, once we got ahead, nobody's went in front, so I think that was obviously a big part as to why we won those games and end up winning the final too. Is once you get ahead, just try and stay there.
And the way you are playing, it's entertaining. It's entertaining, and it's what you know, and it's what you are good at, and it's what's working for you.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Oh, definitely. We obviously have a game plan when it comes to other teams and trying to stop them from doing what they can do, but at the same time they have to stop what we can do as well. And at the end of the day, it's fast, free-flowing football. Get the ball, if shots on, take it. Nobody shouts or nobody gives it off if a boy hits a ball wide. It's go again, you'll get another opportunity, and thankfully it's been paying off for us.
Anthony had spoke about just the difficulty of losing the hurling game, and then he's only a week to, you don't really have time to dig much at it, but was that hard, or you just have to say that's it?
Just had to scratch her off, so we did, just on the Sunday evening, as hard as it was.
Because it's not easy.
It's definitely not easy, but a couple of us boys had got together just after the match, and as bad as it was, we probably never spoke a word for an hour, the whole journey home, not one word. And then later on that night we just kind of got together, got something to eat, and it was just like, let's just scratch that there and have a real good rattle this week, put everything into it. I'd say maybe in years before we would have just slackened off a wee bit and let that kind of define the year, but no, this year we definitely added fuel to the fire.
You have a good side, but you've loads of experience in it as well.
No, definitely. Like, you still
like you chatted about the core of your minor team that is stuck together. Yeah. Anthony was telling me something like maybe 8 or something of you were there out of one age group, but you have a lot of experience as well.
Yeah, it's all us boys, like the same boys, all in that age group and that minor team. We're all best mates. We all run about with each other still, week on week. Most of them boys all work with each other. That's all we know. So a lot of them boys obviously have experience playing county stages all around Ireland, and them boys themselves bring boys of experience, never mind winning county championships, whether it be for hurling. It carries into football, it carries into both codes, so it does at the end of the day.
And then obviously you're in Ulster now, so you're this week, you're like literally days away.
Days away, counting down the days, can't wait to go out and have a rattle at it and just give it all we can and see if we're good enough.
And did you go to went to watch the Derry final, or you just let the management sort those sorts of things out, or what way do you go about it?
Well, a couple of boys went to it, I think, but just actually watched it on TV and just took it from there.
I suppose you still know what you're facing.
100%. We're under no illusions what we're coming up against. Newbridge are obviously a top side. They won Derry 2 years in a row. I'd say they'd be hurting even from last year. They maybe think that they could have gave a wee bit more in Ulster, and I'd say they'll have their heads up for this game and definitely want to make an impact.
And from your own point of view, Decky, the 3 games you won, like St Bridget's, Portdown, and then Carrigan, it has to bring a lot of confidence to your own camp that usually the team left standing after all of that and with the cup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Them's 3 tough games to come through, and especially the manner in which we come through the St Bridget's game, I think really give us belief, because we've been written off all season. So we have, from start to the finish, we've been written off, and I think that game really laid a marker down to let everybody know that we were here and that we were ready to challenge for the title.